Good morning, good afternoon, LinkedIn friends. Welcome back, everyone, to the Value First series. I'm Chris Carolyn, and today I'm joined by Clemen Rovat from Celestial, AI communication expert, and my co-host on Let's Build Communication. How you doing today, Clemen?
Doing super good. Really excited. Looking forward to it.
Talking about the ads trap today, and we can't not talk about how people communicate with the market. That's what the whole Let's Build Communication has been about. But let's break it down. Starting, let's say people may not have seen that show. What are we seeing right now in terms of how attention economy has led to some less than great communication habits? Let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say no. We've all seen, that's race for attention been shifted in the way companies now operate. In a way, what we used to be a dialogue, let's call it now, as all sales approach 5-10 years ago, then became a numbers game. In a way, influenced by the predictable revenue book, which kind of design the framework, the process, how everything should be kind of processed and so forth. And because of all that, messaging now gets optimized for clicks. The outreach is louder, but not necessarily smarter. In a way, we want more of everything, more context, more touch points, and as a consequence, we have more noise. When I was thinking about how to frame all that kind of current state, the classical SaaS VC game came to my mind as in a way a good example where kind of the value of a company, so the valuation is not necessarily measured by the revenue, but is a fictive number where the valuation is based on how fast you're growing, how many users you have. If you're not growing steadily, always 20% more than previous month, you're kind of behind, and valuation goes down, and fundraising is tricky and so forth. So companies, if nothing else, are forced to follow that kind of numbers growing game. And there are other examples where KPIs measuring the volume are a favorite. So I would say communication isn't broken because people wouldn't try to better communicate. The challenge and why it's broken is because of the way how we all think now. What are the metrics? How we evaluate the output of our efforts. And I really have a feeling that it's how we operate right now. It's not built for mutual relevance.
Man, that's a powerful way to say it, for sure. Mutual relevance. At the heart of it, that's what Value First is all about, like creating value for both parties. Like, let's be relevant. To create value, you gotta have relevance, for sure. And this all started, it's reasonable to want visibility into what's happening, but it's turned into like this arms race for attention that exhausts everybody, right? Got people trying to capture it and people trying to avoid it. I mean, come on. Like, we've got easy apps that are free called ad blockers, right? That only happens because everybody asks for it, right?
Yeah.
So today we're diving into the advertising trap and showing a path that actually works better. And I do want to preface this, like, obviously the challenge with Value First is it's never been done before, right? At this scale to solve this problem because of what you just described. Like, the challenge we are trying to solve is designed into the fabric of B2B. And when
Mm.
you start thinking about, for me, it started with the leads object getting built into the CRM of Salesforce, and how all of this stuff grew from, oh, we need to know how leads are being generated. Oh, we need to generate more leads. Let's do some ads. Oh, we need to follow up on those leads. We need an SDR like team of people. Oh, we got to work on our handoffs. So we need to make this seamless. All like, once you dig in and understand, uh, that it truly has never been done before, because this is so ingrained in how we're supposed to go to market, right? So appreciate you, calling that out. Um, so as you talk to people every day, and think about better ways to communicate, what are the traps, that you're seeing people fall into?
Yeah, I mean, every day basically when I talk about all that and I'm thinking about our communication enhancement improvement tools that we're building, I often see companies coming to us, hey, we need to break through the noise. We need to do a better job, get more leads, and then often what that results is just more activities, more noise generated. We'll get to that's part of what I experienced in email as a channel. That perfectly, I think, illustrates everything we'll be talking about. But yes, currently the approach is, I know it's a lot of everything, but let's do some more to get more, even though it's already saturated and we all have a limited attention span to everything. We're just all now ignoring all the DMs, all the emails, all the newsletters, because just everything, and then more of those in our inbox, which all look the same. I'm not sure it's gonna solve the challenges we companies have now.
Yeah, it's this crazy circular logic. Like, attention is scarce, so we need more aggressive tactics to capture it. But then every organization is doing that, and it makes attention even scarcer. Like, let's talk about what happens in practice when we see this. Like, we've been seeing it for years, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, more noise is just generated, and it's really not bringing any value to anyone. The companies trying to increase the volume of activities are just spraying more and praying more to get something out. But then they're disappointed about the conversion rate, how tough it is to do everything. Then people receiving all that are angry because it's just too much of everything. So I led a lead gen agency for 5 years, and I really experienced these changes in the email as a channel firsthand. Over the past 5 years, really a lot changed. Just now quickly walk through for others to understand what now the challenges that we want to convey is when COVID started, email became an even more important channel of communication because more and more people started working from home. The same way we all got used to have Zoom meetings and not travel back and forth. Conferences were gone. In the industry, we were building an agency. It was in biopharma, where the way of operating is you go to a conference, you meet with people, you talk to them. That's how you start a conversation. It was not meant to be via email, but because conferences were gone, a lot of companies had to do something else to survive. So more and more companies, and not in biopharma and in life sciences space only, but in general, more and more companies wanted to do something else. And of course, email seemed to be a really good channel back then. But to send more emails 5 years ago, you really had to understand all the technical aspects. So not everyone and every company was able to set up all the infrastructure, which means the volume of emails was not as high as it is today. And you could have, let's say a decent short-term return. And if you were doing it right, you could play that game. All that kind of opportunity created a room where new companies started. All the AI SDR ideas, and then companies where with one click set up hundreds of new domains, thousands of new emails if you want. That is now one click away, a few hundreds of dollars away from everyone. So you can have the perfect technical setup infrastructure that you can just use. So the limitation in terms of technical capabilities of a team are now gone. And then ChatGPT came out, which really enabled more people to write, I would say, good enough emails, way better than they were able to do before. And now you have the infrastructure easy to set up. You have with AI a way to write good enough emails, even personalize them a bit with just one. We know how good the personalization openers are. Hey, I saw you were with Scouts 15 years ago. How is selling cookies around and all that. I mean, this is kind of the bad approach how to use AI at scale, but that's how it all started, saturating really the email as a channel. So infrastructure is enabling you to set hundreds of thousands of emails easily. Then AI is helping you think that you can just personalize at scale with the wrong approach, and all that just cluttered everyone's inbox to the extent that first humans started saying, okay, this is just AI crap. I'm not even opening that. But then it was interesting to see how all the email service providers realized, their users are struggling now because their inbox is so full that you easily miss an important email internally or from your customer because you stop really scanning the inbox because it's so cluttered. So 8-9 months ago, I think it was September, October, Outlook through the night significantly changed their spam filters, and after that,
Yeah.
Outlook deliverability is gone for a few months, and I think it's still true. I don't follow that much that space, but for the first few months, everyone who was in cold outreach game on LinkedIn, they were saying just don't send emails to Outlook. There's no way you can deliver any email there. Just avoid.
Oh man.
The deliverability is 0%. And I can confirm that because in the life science space, 85 or plus % of companies are on Outlook, and we've seen, for all of our clients, we've been helping them. We've seen that firsthand, how all that dropped, in a week. No replies, no responses, nothing, just zero.
Yeah.
And that is a result of those 5 years that were happening that I was describing. So that playbook is gone now.
Yeah.
You
And I had to
really,
imagine there was a team or at least one person at Microsoft. When they saw that happen, they're like, mission accomplished, baby.
yeah.
Because none of the users of the emails are probably even going to notice.
Yeah.
Right. So who's going to complain about it? The people that have been just spamming your inboxes without the right to do so, like against the law in a lot of cases. Right. And the collateral damage of now creating this channel, which was once like the most reliable channel, that it's an owned channel, right? People still refer to it that way. When the email companies are doing things like that, how do you own the channel? Like, let's be honest, how valuable is an email address if you don't know what's going to happen when you send something there? Because you can't see what's happening on the other side. And some collateral damage that I've experienced this year is, one, like people signing up for events and then not getting the calendar item on their calendar because Google has decided it's new and maybe I'm not going to put it on there unless you confirm it. And at that point, like emails are busy, like the person doesn't confirm it, and we get surprised by the event when you don't show up. Second thing that just happened last week, and this is the first time I experienced it in the other direction, right? Where I get introduced as a follow-up to a colleague, like on the call, they're interested in the resources, they're interested in the morning show. So I get introduced to say, hey, Chris is going to help you out. Like he can get you access to this stuff and share some links. I caught that email. I caught the response from the customer 2 weeks later because it was in HubSpot in a certain place where I'm not used to going to find emails, but it was in this place. And I'm like, man, I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
It was in my spam. So the customer who was expecting to get in touch with me, like they sent the email from their side and it hit my spam. And so us as a company, like we're still in charge of that experience. Like the customer expects the reply, but the channel itself, this is why I go hard on email as a channel, not the execution that people are trying to do, because email as a channel is way far out of our control, like more so than we think it is. And if you build your strategy around, you know, lead magnets and that whole like build the email list, it's the most valuable part of your business. I'd argue for most people, your LinkedIn network is much more valuable than your email list. And so showing up, and this is one channel, we just brought up another one, LinkedIn. But when you look at the language, a lot of this value first is about changing how we view things and even the words that we use, right? So look at the language related to advertising, capture attention, like we're hunting prey, right? Break through the noise by making more noise. Like what? Pattern interrupts. Like we've got to disrupt people in order to get them to pay attention. And then viral mechanics. How do we go viral? Man, for a few years there, probably still in some places, like that was like guaranteed from the boardroom. Like, oh, what are we doing to try and have a viral video, right? Which a lot of times is spreading through, manipulating the viewer, because we got to do it. We're like trying to unlock the human brain in a way that it can't control, that we can't control. So let's talk about what's the alternative. Like how do we, instead of fighting for attention, we've still got to get the word out and we've still got to become known. Like what do we need to do differently?
Yeah, really good question. And I would confess in a way that for the past 10 years I was the outbound guy, because my companies were in such a niche market that I was not convinced that whole brand building and everything is worth it, because it's so niche and not and people were not active on social media, that we had to rely in a way to the outbound approach. Of course, we were not really spamming the market. We really carefully went through who is what's the audience we believe we can help with, and only then we communicated. But because of everything, for Celestia, we're now trying to do the opposite in a way, really building building the brand, sharing the value, building the audience, the recognition on LinkedIn. So what I'm doing is really sharing the valuable content, commenting on people's activities, and then none of my comments is AI generated. I would say every of my comments could potentially be a separate post, if you will, because I really want to have a thoughtful comment. We're again all tired of AI generated comments. Hey, congrats on the summary of my post. I mean, there's no value for you commenting it, or for me posting it, or anyone reading that on LinkedIn feed. So again, we go back to think about what's valuable for the reader and for you to share. Are you giving any signal or building your credibility if you just automate something so that you show up? I don't think you do. So really, our idea is let's talk about valuable information we gather from talking to a lot of HubSpot users. What is kind of the current state, how we see AI can help, so we can all, if nothing else, start thinking what is the next level of what everyone is doing. We are thinking a lot about, with all the vibe coding, developing a tool is now not the tricky part. It's the distribution of everything and making use of it and adoption of every tool. So we are thinking of building small tools that can help solve small challenges within portals as a communication starter, as a relationship builder. And then we can talk further. And if you start using one of the tools we'll develop, and you can use it for free, or for a fraction of the value we bring, I will earn the right to invite you for a 30 minutes discussion where we can start brainstorming, and you will openly talk to me instead of me sending you a pure cold email and asking for 30 minutes to pitch you right away. This is where brand building and value first approach is how you really differentiate against anyone else, and how you can going back to the wording, cut through the noise. And in a way, I really think you need to shift your mindset from interrupting someone to enabling them to discover your solution, your thoughts whenever it's relevant for them. Let them start using or implementing when they see you're talking about something valuable. When they will be stuck, they will get to you because you kind of introduce that process. They won't go to someone else if you were the one talking about the process they're not trying to implement, but they're stuck, or some kind of improvement. I would say a really good example of a product company doing that kind of value sharing and sharing all the insights is Pete Caputa, CEO of Databox. I listened to several of his podcasts and know how he thinks about the content creation, and he was describing, I'm basically sharing what we're talking internally, what we're talking in closed groups. This is the value I have and I can talk about, and no AI will talk about it because there's just no such context, because I have a unique group of people from which I learn, and I can share all that value. And then that's how you grow your network on LinkedIn. Going back to Chris, your point, it's the value now is in your network, and I'm not sure who started, but kind of your network is your net worth. I think it will be more and more the case for that. And I would say from a smaller business perspective for consultants, I really kind of see you, Nico, George, within HubSpot community as kind of role models how that should be done. You're showing up daily. You're just talking. You don't have any call to action, no hidden agenda behind it. You really want to genuinely help people. No one is forcing you to talk about 11 product updates from HubSpot, but you do. You go through. Everyone could just go somewhere and search for it, and then HubSpot is now sending those 5 product updates that are potentially relevant and so forth. So there are other places where they can learn about, but because of the frame, how you talk about it, it's a valuable piece of information. People follow and recognize you then as a thought leader in the community.
Yeah.
Those are the ways how you can now stand out and cut through the noise. Going back to the
and that's the thing, like, you have to, once you accept the fact that you have no control over the buyer journey and their consumption habits, like, you just take a step back and you're like, okay, what can I do then? Right? Like, because even another example, I try to notice when I click on stuff and what I was thinking before that moment, and like, especially when it's emails, which I'm pretty down on, but when I click, I immediately start to wonder why, right? And same thing with LinkedIn ads, right? But what I'm noticing, like, the timing of these messages. So not only do you have to get in there and then have a message that's right, I have to be in the mood in that moment. Like, if you sent that same email yesterday, I'm probably not clicking on it. Either I'm not in the mood, or I'm busy, or whatever, right? And so you just have to start opening up, and it creates the space for trust to happen the way it's supposed to happen, right? We share those updates in that way because it builds credibility, trust, and adds value, to at least one person's day, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of scale. Like, again, you can't control it. So much of this is like dark funnel, and there's lots of lurkers. But when you start getting signals that say, okay, this person I wasn't expecting to see it has seen it, and now they're commenting. Like, there's 10 more, there's 100 more in the background. And I'm sorry, I don't have all the metrics to tell you that, but that kind of qualitative data is super important. Um, and that's the only kind you can get when we're allowing the buyers and the audience to engage with us on their terms every time. Like, as good as HubSpot's getting with intent data, and they're getting very good. It was exciting, some exciting updates this morning. It's still like, just because they show up as something on a data point, like, doesn't mean much until they actually raise their hand and say, let me talk to somebody, right? And the difference is between how you start that relationship between unexpected outreach versus like expected response to their request. Like, you're starting from a place of trust, and the rest of the process gets so much easier. Apparently, I'm having a hard time fitting these into 30 minutes, so maybe I have to rethink the strategy here. But we're going to run through what's called the need assessment, to help you understand how, if you're in the trap, which I think most people are. So it's really about how deep you are in the trap, and what you can notice to kind of identify some ways to improve. So we're going to walk through this need assessment. And need stands for natural, enhanced, elevated, and distributed. These are all things we're trying to, move towards, from industrial age thinking that's all about scarcity and grabbing attention and all this other stuff, towards moving towards abundance, right? That we have all this space to work in. How can we, switch the mindset? So tell us about natural discovery versus attention capture.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the cold outreach game I was already talking about, I think this is kind of, a great example of typical attention capture approach, where you're just, throwing a lot of nets around and hoping that, people that you reach out at that exact moment are ready to respond. So you're basically, looking for a needle in a haystack, because only really a small fraction of that, and then timing here is crucial. But there are some people that you hit with the email at the right time, so they will respond. But this is kind of, throwing out a lot of potential bites and hoping, one catches it. Where the other play, I like to, kind of see and follow one of the cold lead gen agencies on LinkedIn, where they wanted and they approach it completely differently. They're building a list of, I guess now thousands of AI sales tools as a repository. This is kind of one value. Everyone who is thinking about GTM tech stack would probably go there, because you have everything that is possible out there. So you have a starting point. So it's, a valuable piece of information. Then they're sharing a lot of processes, a lot of workflows, a lot of setups, a lot of tools they put together for their clients. And that's how they grow their audience. They grow their comments, engagements, I'm sure DMs and calls and everything. So they build the presence on LinkedIn with building content that is of use for anyone in that cold outreach game. So that's giving value without pitching, hey, we're the lead gen agency. They started off building the repository of tools that are potentially useful. And of course, when you're stuck and not sure which of those 15 or 65 tools available on the list, you might go to them and ask them, and then you have a conversation starter.
Yep. And that's the first trap indicator. Like, just ask the question, are you helping people find value when they need it? Or are you forcing them to encounter your message when you need visibility? And spoiler alert, if you send out the email because you need to hit your lead KPIs at the end of the month, you're forcing them to encounter your message when you need the visibility. KPIs, it always comes back to KPIs, man, forcing so much of this, poor behavior. So let's move to the enhanced part of the framework. And let's compare it. So enhanced relationship building versus lead processing. What are you seeing out there?
I would share, my experience from a conference I attended, which in a way we briefly touched at one of our, Let's Build Communication shows. When I was in front of a conference before it started, we're asking, what are your KPIs for a conference? And my goal there was just, talk to people. I had no hard metrics. You need to have 20 good leads at the end of the conference or whatever. And I experienced kind of both sides of the spectrum, really focusing on catching up all the KPIs I guess they had, companies exhibiting there. And on the other side, just people being there to build relationship, to build trust, to build credibility. So on one side, I came to a booth, asked how it's going, how's your conference going, are you having good conversations? We chit chat a bit. At some point, I said, I'm not in at all interested in buying your software, but I'm just curious what you do and how you're doing, and let's talk. I'm here to talk. I got a demo pitch for 10 minutes. They enrolled me now in all the sequences. I'm getting sales reps from that company connecting with me on LinkedIn. I'm getting follow-up messages. I'm getting phone calls with zero intention. I told them I'm not buying their tool. If nothing else, we're building a partially similar to what they do from a different angle. But it was okay. Yeah, I need to they scan my badge. Now I'm part of that KPI of how many badges they scanned at a conference. Where on the other side, I had a really good conversation with the CEO of a company, which a day after I realized they just raised 15 million. We had a good chat. We were talking about we're now using their competitor. He clearly explained to me what kind of challenges they're solving for us, which are using the competitor, why they are building all that and so forth. He said, no pressure. I mean, when you start experiencing those challenges that we want to solve, let us know, and then we'll help you. It was not, let me scan your badge. Are you now in the buying mode of switching to us? No, it was genuine conversation. And I'll be keeping in mind where it starts hurting us to check them out. Where the other company, I'm I'm done. Really, I'm done there. I will see their name, of course, but I know what kind of game they're playing.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We can sense the agenda. Like, we know what's going on, especially when you're at a marketing show. And apparently, so that's because every interaction, we design the process, not thinking about the humans involved. So we just optimize, right? And this is one of the ways that, a common theme through Value First is we're not trying to optimize the stuff that doesn't work. We need to transform our mindsets, to transform our processes and our interactions and how we approach relationship. Because they scan the badge, it's a lead, it goes into the system, and that person who talked to you at the booth has no opportunity to say, hey, Clement said he's not interested, he's not in the market. It would be a waste of our time and would annoy Clement if we did the outreach, right? And yet it still happens.
Yeah.
Right. And apparently, and this is again another level of AI where it can make it worse. I used the word SaaStr enough, and I talked to somebody who had gone to SaaStr in Clement. We did a couple Let's Build Communication shows on it. to where I get in my LinkedIn DMs a pitch that starts with, "I hope you enjoyed attending SaaStr."
Really?
And yeah.
Oh
And I
gosh.
did not. I did not attend. I never had a ticket, so there was no list I could possibly be on, which is usually where this comes from. So that's like a LinkedIn scrape. Anybody using and that's like AI can do bad, it can do good.
Yeah.
It probably wouldn't have been hard for AI to look at some of the posts and say, "Oh, Chris probably was there," right? And especially if you get sophisticated and you're like looking at YouTube videos where I'm talking to Clement and he's there and we're talking about the show, right? And this is the volume escalation, trap. When things that should work, we just bury people in messages that are irrelevant.
Yeah.
So then we don't get to all the messages in the inbox or in the DMs. And then companies just do more of it.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of taking a minute to question, right? And here's what happens when you take a minute to question. Like, take us through the elevated understanding and maybe not doing that stuff that we're describing versus message broadcasting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this, the biggest opportunity gap. AI really gives you, me, us really incredible capability to create really genuine understanding about every company and every contact. And then not just, understanding Chris was a SaaStr because you were not, but, everything else that you can really use in the best way AI to not just, throw a lot of messages out there, but really use AI to understand who is who, what they care about, how you should make and send relevant message and to whom. And then you maybe don't even need to personalize the message based on where they were studying, because okay, if that person is hiring for, let's say, SDR role, they might need to scale the I know I'm making it up, qualification or processing of inbound leads. So if you have a system to do that, talk about that, because that person is obviously thinking about it. They're even, their pain is big enough that they're hiring to solve that pain point. But someone else who is not hiring for that, they might be years away or never be where you can use it. So AI can really do a lot of research and understanding who is who. I'm thinking a lot, even further. You have CEOs, VPs on podcasts, on webinars. You have job posts. You have all the previous communication someone is talking about, and that you have then in your CRM. In a 1 hour podcast, the CEO shared a lot about what they think about. You should just use AI to figure out what they were talking about. 5 points that they're, as a company, struggling with or thinking about, or there is for sure in 1 hour of a podcast, there is a lot of information to you which you can relate to and understand what they care about. And if you reach out with that context, hey, I listened to your podcast, you were talking about this and this and that, can we hop on a call? I have a few ideas how that could be addressed. I mean, why would someone say no? At least respond to that, because it's a genuine conversation starter. It's not pushing, hey, this is what we do, here's my scheduling link, let's hop on a call. I understand where you are, I believe we can help, let's talk.
Yeah. And it switches the like using your first name trick, like, because we know humans like to hear the sound of their name, switches from that, like, and just clear like the agenda again to actually at least looking like, in most cases, if you're going that far, you do care. You
Yeah.
care about the other person because you're trying to build a relationship based on trust from the get-go. And this is a good example, like using go ahead.
And even if that message is not responded, after a month, where there's another case why I want to get in touch with you, you will see my previous message, which is a really good one. It's not a spammy
Yes.
one of many. So there's no hurting, nothing hurts my credibility against you because I did everything right. I tried to understand where you are. I tried to connect. For so many reasons, you didn't respond, but now is the time. Maybe no, after a month, we have a much better conversation because of that relationship building I started initially in a DM or in an email, because it was a genuine attempt to help or to talk if we can help to your specific case. Because you as a CEO were talking about it, how you struggle with growing your audience or better converting because you have a lot of webinar attendees, but you're not converting them further in a conversation, blah blah blah, whatever that is. If I approach you with that after a month, that message is still a good one, and there's another message is building on top of that relationship, on top of that value I want to provide, more than, if someone follows up and I see 5 DMs on my LinkedIn from them that I know were just part of a sequence, I know the sixth is the same. So nothing changed. I'm just archiving again. Where, if there's a better message, a better communication, you're just building it up. At some point, you'll have a conversation.
Man, that's such a next level thing to notice. Because even I notice, like, from my messages that I've sent to people, I can tell when it wasn't relevant to them, or I don't care about them as much as I should have before I sent them that message. And you pull up and they come to mind, and you pull up your LinkedIn DMs and you see the message from like last year, right? That wasn't responded to because it was clearly you trying to extract value versus actually sharing something of value, right? And we talk about consistency, right? It's so hard to act in inconsistent ways now and not get seen for it. And inconsistency, more than anything else, erodes trust. And it leads to this last need indicator: distributed empowerment versus attention hoarding. Because what the only way distribution empowerment can happen is letting things flow the way they need to flow. So you kind of just touched on it, but maybe share another example of when we just let knowledge flow freely versus when we're trying to control it for specific attention capture that we've got to measure and we've got to hit these metrics. What happens when we just know that this knowledge is valuable and we just share freely?
Yeah, I would say no one should be afraid to just share value and knowledge on LinkedIn. You're not talking about any secret sauce, but you're building credibility with that. I like to have one of advocates to really share 100%, not 99% of your knowledge openly. Yasmin Alic is one of the fastest growing LinkedIn guys, and he's always advocating just share everything. I do share everything, and I attended 2 workshops with him live, and I'm following what he's saying on LinkedIn, but the workshop was still eye-opening to me. I know what he will be talking, but then in an hour he shared so much more value that I couldn't even pull together from everything that he's sharing, which is already valuable on LinkedIn. So it's not that I would be kind of disappointed on a workshop with him, because I already he's openly sharing everything, all the value. I was just more convinced and more eager to hear for an hour from him what he can say and teaches us, everyone in the room. Where on the other side, we have all those gated. Please comment your favorite food or whatever tricks are now to go through the algorithm and all that. I'm often responding because I want to see what happens. how people are, doing and playing it and all that. But even for me personally, when I get those resources, I don't even open them most of the time. Really, I mean, and so there's no value really delivered. Of course, yeah, you tweak the LinkedIn algorithm to get a lot of impressions, but um, I'm not sure this is kind of the gated content. Rather throw it out, let people find the value. They will find you when they need you, but you'll be in a completely different position when you're reaching out to. When I reach out to people, I now hear, okay, yeah, I've been seeing you on my feed for a while, so it's not a random guy reaching out, but you have the credibility. Okay, you are talking about personalization and better communication. So if I ask someone, how are you doing currently, the communication, or how are you sending emails through workflows and sequences in HubSpot, it's a completely different starting point from where I start the conversation. If they check on my LinkedIn profile, they will see that kind of credibility built in what I'm saying, that I know I have a reason to ask you about that, because maybe there's an idea or something got my interest on your profile or what you commented, to start a conversation around that topic, which I talk a lot about. So all that is kind of putting together why you should be sharing value. Let people see you as a credible person, build brand, and everything will be so much easier.
Yeah, I think, man, we've shared so many good examples already. But let's start with, like, how do we help break free? We've talked a lot about how you see the traps and what the traps are, but we've also shared a lot of alternatives already. Um, so breaking free, what does value first, communication look like in practice as we start to wrap up the show today?
I listened to an interesting podcast with one of the renowned VCs about, okay, what's left now for SaaS businesses in general, where the moat was the product you had. Now I'm more and more convinced that it will be hard to build a business and grow your business with pure SaaS play, with the old playbooks and so forth. And then the answer and the message was clear. It's distribution, how you now can grow and make success. And it's not by sending more emails. It's by building credibility, showing up, sharing your ideas, talking about it openly, build credibility, build relationship with people who will then invite you for podcasts. So then you penetrate into their network, do webinars to share ideas. And the more saturated all the channels are with AI, the more we'll be looking for and appreciate the human connection and the human interaction. I had a chat with a colleague of mine who is helping me with all the videos and vertical videos and editing and so forth. And I was asking him, as someone who is now in video production for over 10 years, how do you see all those AI avatars that are supposed to help you have much better content on video and so forth? And we both agreed, no, this is not how it's done. Yes, you can have them for tutorials and product walkthrough, so that you see a face of someone, and so it's more interactive. But webinars, LinkedIn lives, podcasts, this will stay. This is how you show your personality, how you build credibility. We want to feel you as a person, because when we start a conversation, I will see you at a completely different level than if you're just someone I never heard of. And with all the information available, and AI can produce insights, information way faster than we can digest and even use and process, we'll be more and more going back to people we trust, to network effects, to credibility. You can go and search for the best, I don't know, whatever tool, and you'll get what, at least 15 similar tools. So how do you decide? You can ask AI, do the evaluation, you'll get a pretty decent output. But if there's a guy that you trust and would say, hey, I know those 15 are all similar, but pick one because this and this and that. I mean, this is the credibility when someone is vouching and saying, pick that because of my experience. You will trust that guy. You won't do AI search on top of that. You will first try that tool. This is just one example, but to build that credibility, to get to that, the mindset needs to change.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, you already have all the data, quantitative and qualitative, in front of you. Like, using these tools, you could figure this out if you want to. So that's our suggestion for like practical implementation. First review how you communicate with people right now, whether it's intentional or unintentional. There's communication happening. Take a minute to review throughout the life cycle, right? Marketing, sales, service, success, like everything's on the table because it's all sending a message of some sort, right? 2 more practical shifts you can make. Audit the language as you do that. Notice when you're thinking internally about capturing attention versus enabling discovery. And this goes all the way down to how we label our sales processes and our lead stages and all these things, right? Then measure natural signals, right? Track how often people voluntarily engage versus how hard you have to push for attention. So the key question that this should be easy answer. The whole point of Value First, like, we should easily be able to answer these questions in a way that we have not been for a long time. Does this communication serve their curiosity or my need for attention? Our business's need for attention. Way too often, it's the latter. And all these bad results we're talking about are from that. Clement, fantastic session, man. We know everybody's exhausted out there from this attention economy. I'm, for one, thankful that AI is here to help take us in a better direction. Hopefully, we showed people, a better way today.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you for hosting me once again. But yeah, I mean, value first communication, I would say, no, it's really not just more ethical. It's more effective, and how we can grow as a business, as individuals, as professionals, and more and more we all are hungry for genuine communication, genuine relationships, talking to human, not just feeling we're just another entry point in the CRM, which is part of the sequence or part of the funnel where they just want to convert 5% of everyone at every stage, but it's it can be so much more. And then just keep, if nothing else, start thinking or keep thinking about how you can do that differently. I don't think anyone have done it because it's so new, but start today, start thinking about it today, and you'll be in a much better position a year from now than you would if you don't start.
Indeed, and closely associated to that. And there's a reason all these connect. I'm sorry, it's complex, folks. We built this system ourselves, and now it's time to transform away from it. Tomorrow we dive into the lead magnet trap with Madeline Donovan. The question to remember: am I enabling discovery or demanding attention? Thanks, Clement, and thanks everyone for being a part of this conversation. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, everybody. See ya.